Baby beard!
Alright, I'm a delivery boy!
Who is Hermes planning on killing?
I think we should let the orphans run free.
You've redeemed funds.
Yeah, exactly.
You haven't.
He's just an old guy.
Can we talk about evil Lincoln?
Oh, of course.
Oh, this art needs to be sent. That's not the voice at all.
That's lobstertainment.
Let's make it the
Look,
Christmas.
let me ask you this.
He was just about to agree with you.
Shut up and take my podcast!
Side mission.
Side mission.
That's the intro. We say side mission afterwards.
Right,
I realise
yeah.
whenever we've done side missions, we've never said it's a side mission.
Right, okay.
Probably because I haven't known it's a side. We didn't call it that at that point.
For anyone following along at home, side missions is when we have a scheduling conflict or some kind of computer accident or similar.
Or just need to buy
mishap.
some time, really.
Yeah, or once it was when Futurama decided to borrow from our playbook.
Exactly.
And do a podcast.
Because we created that.
Yeah.
We invented the medium.
The creators of Futurama were like, hey, those Baby Beard guys are doing a podcast about us. Why don't we just do a podcast? And then they can do a podcast about a podcast.
I wish that was true. But
That would be amazing.
I've tagged John DiMaggio so many times.
Just keep doing it.
I've even started a hashtag, which is hashtag John DiMaggio, come on our podcast, please.
Yeah, it's very...
Long.
No, I was just going to say it was very snappy.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah,
Good.
it's definitely going to gain traction in the Twitter sphere.
So let's see if
One day, we'll get... do you know what? We'll page John DiMaggio a million times, and then
Say
we'll get...
page?
Page him, yeah.
Page him?
Yeah, I don't know.
Do pages exist? Like, are page...
But I don't think you could buy a pager very easily anymore.
Also, even if you can, you have to assume that he has a page.
Yeah, that's right. I don't know why I chose the word paging, but let's just
Feels more
roll with
formal.
it for my joke.
Feels more formal.
Yeah, we'll keep tagging. Tagging? Sorry.
Hashtagging.
We'll just keep tagging John DiMaggio, and then we'll get Billy West, and we'll be like, Billy West.
Come on.
Denver Broncos.
Billy West, if you are listening, please come down to Comic-Con. Not Comic-Con, Supernova, which is the Australian
You
equivalent.
can come to AvCon as well.
AvCon, yeah, which is in... you're working.
It's in July. Yeah.
July, thank you. Well, let's see if I can twist this around to suit the intro. Welcome, everybody, to Shut Up and Take My Podcast Side Mission, where we deviate from our original journey to bring you something different in the Futurama universe.
For the record, I have no idea what we're supposed to be talking about
Yeah,
today.
good. So what I thought we'd do is, I feel like for the last year, we've always eventually talked about movies, because, we just want to talk film.
We often talk about film in the run-up to hitting record, don't we?
Yes, we do. And maybe 5 seconds of it makes it into the final product. So I thought, why not dedicate an entire episode to it? Specifically, okay, Phil, let's see if this works out. What are the 3 genres that you would associate with Futurama? 3 genres of film and or TV.
Well, sci-fi.
Yes, tick.
Animation, is that
Tick.
a genre? And comedy.
Fuck yeah, good.
Yeah,
we
okay.
got it. 3 for 3. So
It's an animated sci-fi comedy.
Yes.
Yes.
So if we split those apart, let's talk about what our favourite films and or TV shows are in those individual mediums to give the audience a bit of an insight on what we think is good sci-fi, good comedy, and good animation.
Okay, so sort of put our tastes in context.
Yeah. Put our taste on the table and they can be like, that's shit. We're not
That's-
listening anymore.
What a gross dish.
And it means that we can hashtag
Yeah, so you can
movies.
basically judge our opinions and, by extension, us
Based on
by
the company we
things
keep.
that we like. Which of those would you like to tackle first?
Well, what would you say? Let's see if our minds are still in sync. What would you say out of the 3 of those genres are most Futurama-y?
Well, as I said before, it's an animated sci-fi comedy.
Yeah.
So maybe that's the order we tackle it in.
Animated sci-fi comedy.
Comedy.
Cool. Well, let's go with animation first then.
My favourite animated film is Princess Mononoke.
Oh, shit. Well, I'm going to be no help with this, but please, go away. Not go away.
Okay,
Go
bye.
away.
See you later, guys. Go ahead.
Malapropism, remember.
Fire away.
Yes.
Yeah, you sort of mixed your phrases there. Yeah, Princess Mononoke is by Studio...
I figured it's a Ghibli film.
It's a Ghibli film. Steebly Ghibli.
Ghibli film.
Steebly Ghibli. It's a fantastic film, which is all about the... as many Ghibli films are, about the battle between progress and nature.
Were you trying to get the word battle out that entire time?
Conflict. I was just choosing a
Right,
word.
sure, thank you.
This is completely tangential. I read a thing recently that we pause mostly before nouns.
Right.
Those ums and ers that you do are nouns. You very rarely do it before verbs.
I mean, is that stemming from the idea that you're trying to come up with a good word?
Apparently,
besides good, like if I
but apparently it's not adjectives or verbs; it's nouns that make us pause.
Right.
Completely side to this discussion.
We could do a podcast, a side mission about words.
About words, where it's a wordy medium. No, Princess Mononoke. Yes, great film about the forest spirits and their an encroaching darkness, a corruption that is not helped by the industrializing humans. But they're not. It's not like Fern Gully. The humans are just trying to get on with their lives.
Right.
They're not purposefully kind of corrupting the forests. So it's a very nuanced take on those things. It has great animation, really cool creature design and characters, and is epic. It's not funny. It's not comedy.
I was about to ask about that because
It's got a few comedic beats.
So here's where I come out and say I have never completely watched a Studio Ghibli film.
None at all.
Never.
Never. There's tons of them.
I'm sure
I've got loads of them.
I'm
on
sure
DVD.
you have. I probably have one on my rack on my DVD shelf up here somewhere, but I've never watched one all the way through.
Or maybe that's a podcast that we do.
What Sean and Ghibli?
Sean and Phil watch Ghibli films and tell people what we think of them.
Because I mean, my understanding of it, or probably just my assumption, is that Studio Ghibli, even if there's not comedy per se, there's like a measure of charm.
Yeah, always.
So incidental comedy, I guess, in a sense.
I guess, yeah. One of the films I haven't seen of theirs is actually one of their most famous. It's called Grave of the Fireflies.
Never heard.
It's about kids in the Second World War. I think it's to do with the firebombing of towns in the Second World War, and they're trying to survive. I don't think there's a lot of comedy in the film. I have a feeling. Whereas, and then you have films like My Neighbor Totoro, which has tons of charm, but I'm not sure it's an outright comedy. It has some kind of good physical beats to it, physical moments that are quite funny. And Totoro himself, the way he moves and the way he acts is pretty comical. It has a cat bus, which is very whimsical.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's very comical though. Things like Howl's Moving Castle make me laugh, I'd say. And
what about animated TV shows?
Okay, yeah, let's just shove that aside.
Just shove that.
But Princess Mononoke, go watch it, everybody. It's a great film.
Yeah, I think I was freaking out a bit about how far Ghibli was going to go and how much I could actually
talk about it. Yeah, animated TV shows. Well, obviously there's The Simpsons and Futurama. There is Rick and Morty's a great show. Adventure Time,
of course. Rick and Morty.
Rick and Morty's a great show. It has pretty controversial fans. Adventure Time's a great show.
See, I have much more of a 90s sensibility, I realized. Like, on my once again, I'll constantly reference the DVD shelf that I have up here. Did you ever watch Beast Wars as a kid?
Yeah, I watched Beast Wars a little bit. I didn't watch it nearly as much as the original animated Transformers show,
yeah.
which I watched a lot of. I watched the Transformers movie.
Oh, with Laurence Olivier.
I'm thinking of
fuck.
Orson Welles.
Why do I get those two mixed? I've done
every
it before.
time we talk about this film.
I don't understand
those two up. Mix those two.
Although Laurence Olivier and Transformers would be
great.
Beautiful.
It's also got Leonard Nimoy in it and Eric Idle. It's a great cast.
See, I feel like Leonard Nimoy would have a bit more of an idea of what the hell was going on.
Yeah.
Orson Welles, I think, had no clue.
He had no clue. No. He does a great performance, but I don't think he has any clue. I think
these words, I say them right. Okay.
Well, can you imagine going to a recording booth? You're Orson Welles, a titan of acting, a titan of cinema in general, and they go, okay, what's going on here? What am I playing? And they go, so you're a planet, a giant transforming planet that eats other planets, and he's like, just tell me what to say.
Wait a minute, he played Ego.
Sort of. It's called Voltron?
Unicron. What's Voltron? Voltron's an entirely different series.
Voltron is a different series about robots that combine into other robots.
lovely.
bigger robots.
Yeah, Beast Wars I grew up in. So, okay, for...
Oh, yeah, you can talk about what you like instead of just me.
yes. Just let me talk for once.
No.
No. So, in Australia, we had a thing called Cheese TV, which was I don't know if you're aware of Cheese TV. So, Cheese TV was a TV show that always came on before school. So, you would get up at 6 o'clock or whatever time you would watch it. And it was two guys, Jade and Ryan, and they were your hosts. And they would basically have little skits, and there was just little kind of... Have you ever watched Saturday Morning Disney here?
Not here. I've watched Saturday morning cartoons.
Where they have like the hosts that will just talk and do a bit of...
Yeah. They have that all over the world. They have similar shows on the UK.
Cheese TV was that sort of thing. Then, so that was my introduction to Pokemon. Cheese TV gave me Pokemon for the very first time.
Yeah, I watched Pokemon.
Beast Wars was the way I got introduced to that as well. And Beast Wars, I don't know if it holds up, but because I think the animation is quite shoddy.
I mean, it's worth discussing, I think, in context of Futurama, because that was one of the earliest instances of computer animation becoming like a mainstay of TV animation.
Beast Wars is rendered quite... what's the word I'm looking for? If you go back and watch it, it's rendered quite simplistically.
Yeah, it's got low polygon count, right?
Yeah.
It's not very complex. It's detailed models.
In that sense, I think it doesn't hold up very well. You could look at it and go... but I mean, look, I grew up on, 80s Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and Gargoyles, Firefly. I don't know how many of these are going to ring a bell. But they're kind of Batman, the animated series, the really dark Batman.
The X-Men animated series is really good.
I went back and, you know what, and there you go, that's probably my answer. The original X-Men animated series is probably my favorite. I remember going through it all the way to the Dark Phoenix saga.
Right. I don't think I watched it in that sort of chronological way.
Also, it has the best theme song that I can recall from any animated
it
TV
was
show.
really good. Yeah.
I'm in the wrong key. But
yeah, okay. Don't listen to us do that. It's terrible.
And, Pokemon, Dragon Ball Z, all those.
Pokemon, I was heavily into Pokemon. The animated show was great. So I guess that's...
I'm a 90s kid when it comes to animation.
Me too. I mean, I was born in 86. I'm a little bit older than you, but 90s is when I sort of grew up with
Spider-Man, the animated
what
series.
was on TV. Yeah.
But
I guess
movies,
those are was two things to talk about. Those are the things that we liked as kids, right? And that's sort of where we cut our teeth on animation. Thundercats gets a quick mention there as well. This is not just for us to list all the things.
Thundercats!
Yeah.
Holy shit! The two fucking cat that are pilots that kind of...
No.
Oh, what am I thinking of?
Thundercats is Lion-O
Bobcats?
and Chitara and maybe Bobcats is what you're thinking?
Bobcats, maybe?
Something like that. I'm not sure I watched that show.
God.
No, Thundercats is anthropomorphic cats who fight baddies.
Yeah.
Who are like rhinos and stuff. Anyway. And He-Man, obviously, as well. But again, not here to list all our childhood favourites. But I guess for us and people our age... those morning cartoons is where we sort of fell in love with animated shows, right? Yeah. They were the mainstay of what your entertainment was
my link
cartoons.
to animation is very nostalgic. It's
yes,
very much linked to the way we grew up, as opposed to more because it doesn't totally cross into adulthood in terms of will I still watch now what I watched 20 years ago? Like I do want to go back and watch, say, the X-Men animated series.
Yeah,
but I've never has less replayability.
Yeah. And then what happened was, I guess, as we grew up, there were a slew of more adult animated things that you could watch, right? So Beavis and Butthead.
The MTV generation.
MTV, right? Beavis and Butthead and The Simpsons and...
Star Trek, the animated series.
No, no. King of the Hill.
Oh, fuck. Do we have to...
later, Family Guy. We don't have to talk about it. I don't
Good,
really like
thank
that show. Family Guy, we don't have to talk about it. I don't really like that show either. And American Dad. Oh, those came later than Futurama even.
Oh, yeah.
But there was a kind of transitional thing of like, oh, there are cartoons for grown-ups with grown-up comedy and stuff like that, which meant that there was a thread from our kind of childhood favourites.
And that's not even to go into Adult Swim.
Yeah, Harvey Birdman and
Space Ghost, Coast
Space
to Coast,
Ghost and
fucking
Venture Brothers and
what is it? Aquatine Hunger Force.
Aquatine Hunger Force.
Just the if you've never watched it before, give it a couple of episodes. Lose your mind.
Oh, my recommendation is Frisky Dingo.
Frisky. That's the precursor to Archer, isn't it?
Yes, it is. Frisky Dingo is one of my favourite shows ever. Very unknown and a very off-the-wall comedy. And as you might know from my time on Shut Up and Take My Podcast, I love silly stuff. And Frisky Dingo is really silly.
Thank you for reminding me of Archer, too. Archer also gets my mention.
Of course, yeah.
I could think we could probably shelve animation quite comfortably.
Yeah. I think, I just to round it off, I guess, is Futurama, I feel, sits quite nicely in that canon of grown-up animated shows and has linked those traditional Simpsons animation style. I guess it's not traditional, but it's that Matt Groening animated style with that CG style that was just coming up when we were kids.
Yeah.
And it was quite revolutionary when it first aired, was this traditional animation with CG stuff.
Yeah.
It was really cool and new. It was a point of difference when Futurama first aired. I was like, wow, this is really cool. Look at what they're doing, mixing these two things together.
You had the benefit of remembering when it first came out as well.
Yeah, that's
you
right.
are significantly older than me.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
5 years. 5 years? 3 years. 3 years.
Thanks for reminding me, Sean.
3 years. Dude, I'm almost 27.
As we
oh
all
my
march
God.
inevitably towards death.
Which is, I'm scared. Okay. So, what was next on the agenda? Animated sci-fi comedy.
Sci-fi.
Right.
Sci-fi, yeah. Okay, well, do you want to go first and tell me
sure.
what you like it... What do you... Before we go name dropping, because all I did was name drop in that last section.
I think that's going to be a very animation-heavy portion, is just name dropping.
Name dropping. What do you look for in a sci-fi?
Sci-fi world building. Very simply put,
okay,
I love a heavily realized world that I can really sink my teeth into. I'm that guy that plays Mass Effect on the Xbox, and so Mass Effect is a very world building heavy sci-fi epic series that
it's an RPG, right? So you're going to spend a lot of time in that world, so it better be
but also
fleshed out.
It's got essentially what was the Pokédex, which is every.
I think it's called the Codex.
It is the Codex.
Yeah.
I'm trying to make it a bit more of a mainstream appeal.
Sure.
But I would, every time I got a little bit of information about a world or a character or an alien race, I would goddamn read every single bit of that. I just wanted to ingest the world into my body.
Yourself. Yeah.
And just gobble it all up. Because I like kind of just getting a bit more of a personal tie to sci-fi and lose myself in that world. I mean, I played Mass Effect within probably a 24-hour time span, 100%ed it.
Wow.
I just shut myself away in my room. I had nothing going for me at that point. It was fine.
So you really like worlds that you can disappear inside of?
Yeah. So for me, I watched Serenity first, and then I got introduced to Firefly.
Oh, yeah, cool.
So I'm one of those guys that is still sad about Firefly 15 years on from
yeah, of
the
course.
event.
I mean, this is something I guess is worth mentioning. I would say it's a defining characteristic of you is your love for Firefly, and that's I guess something that a kind of insight that is important. This is why we're doing this episode, right? Between the two of us, is things like I associate you really strongly with Firefly in my mind. Like they're quite synonymous. Like your love for Firefly is so strong that it really tells me a lot about what you like about sci-fi and your taste in general, and hopefully our listeners too. I love Firefly too as well, and I feel similarly about being immersed into worlds. But also, my other maybe equally or maybe even bigger appeal for sci-fi is the interesting concept, the thought-provoking concept.
Sure.
So Moon is one of my favourite sci-fi films ever. So spoilers ahead for Moon.
Oh yeah, there you go. Yeah, we may be talking about films and spoiling them. So
Yeah.
just pause the podcast, leave it
Skip
running on
ahead.
mute, so we get the play.
Yeah, please
and
do.
go watch that particular product.
Also, don't worry about spoilers. It's fine. Moon's an old movie anyway, I guess. Moon is Sam Rockwell, and he's solo operating a mining station on the moon. And he's been up there for 3 years and gets in an accident, and they wake up his clone replacement. But turns out he's not actually dead, and his clone replacement finds the original Sam Rockwell, who had the accident. And so you have Sam Rockwell as he was when he first got to the moon versus 3 years of isolation.
Yeah.
And the idea is after 3 years of isolation, the current Sam Rockwell breaks down essentially, and they unthaw a new one.
Yeah.
And they just kind of keep doing this ad infinitum. But the idea is that you get to see a character face themselves after a humbling experience, right? They're really cocky and an asshole when they first get there, and 3 years later, 3 years of isolation, they're a much more mellow, chill kind of person. And
it's pretty much Sam Rockwell by himself for the entire film.
Pretty much,
with
yeah.
Kevin Disgracie and
Disgracie as a computer.
Basically, what's his name?
Gertie is the character.
Thank you, Gertie. Yeah. And then a few, his wife through.
Yeah, on a TV screen,
on a TV
but it's really minor.
It's basically Sam Rockwell is only physically playing against himself.
Himself, yes. But my point being that it's less about the world that they're in and whether, what Earth looks like at that time, and more about using the sci-fi as an interesting vehicle to do a character study, right? And interesting things like Ex Machina, right?
I mean, I was going to say that
great film.
I was going to say that you're like, if I'm looking at you in the way that you deal with sci-fi, so to flip the script back onto you, is that I very much kind of pin you as synonymous with the sci-fi that puts a reflection back onto current times and current society.
Yes.
That kind of I guess hard sci-fi in a sense.
Hard sci-fi where it's as opposed to high fantasy, right?
Yes.
Where it's plausible.
Yeah, that's very much linked to your love of sci-fi and literature.
Yes, Asimov and Richardson, I think his name is,
and the other ones.
Yeah, one of my favorite books ever is called The Diamond Age. Neil Stevenson, I think, wrote The Diamond Age. Really cool idea about a point in the future where our technology has basically meant we can engineer things from the ground up, from the nanoscale.
Yeah,
we can do whatever we want almost. Really, 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 really cool book. I guess, that's my approach to sci-fi, which doesn't really tie in that well to Futurama. Futurama doesn't really do those concepts, but it references a lot of movies that do.
Yeah, I can say as well that Sexy Chris, his favourite film and so his favourite sci-fi is The Matrix.
Yeah.
So there you go. That's Sexy Chris's.
Sexy Chris, the editor.
Yes.
Hi, Chris.
Hi, Chris. Thank you for editing this.
This, I guess, Futurama. It tickles that because it references a lot of those things. It references 2001 and
every sci-fi movie imaginable, really.
Probably, at some point.
Like really 70s, 80s sensibility, even to the point where they're referencing like horror, kind of like Carrie, which is more, what do you call it?
Thriller horror, psychological horror.
What's the word I want? That's like a mix of sci-fi and horror. What do you call that horror? Paranormal horror is what I was looking for.
I guess, yeah.
Because Carrie's the demon, basically, is it not? Not Carrie. What am I thinking of?
Carrie is telekinetic.
What am I thinking of? What's the car that?
Catherine.
Catherine, thank you. Carrie's with the.
Carrie's a telekinetic lady who gets a woman who gets bullied.
Oh,
high school.
Okay. Well, that's a bit off, but that's all right.
Nice try, Sean. Nice try.
Let's. Now, are we happy to shelve sci-fi? I mean, it's a massive topic.
It's huge. It's huge, right? I mean, I guess even superhero things start to fall into sci-fi these days.
Yeah.
I mean, Guardians of the Galaxy is quite clearly sci-fi.
Yeah. Well, Marvel in general is kind of...
Yeah, it is kind of sci-fi.
Taken to the stars.
Well, it's the stuff they've lent into at the moment. Well, not just at the moment, but the whole thing with Iron Man, which is very core to the MCU becoming what it is today, and the way Iron Man has been used to set up the universe is very much like a tech-heavy thing. Like, look at the new Spider-Man: Homecoming, right? There's a whole Tony Stark-esque sci-fi element to the way his suit works.
You've watched Homecoming?
I watched Homecoming. Yeah.
Hey, do you enjoy it?
Yeah, it was a fun film. Yeah, I liked it. Yeah, I liked Tom Holland as Spider-Man. He works really well.
Remember, you were holding off from what you had yet to watch.
I went there. I think shortly after that, I went and got it and watched it. But yeah, it's got like the Tony Stark sci-fi. His suit is very sci-fi, right? And the MCU has really leaned into those sci-fi elements.
Well, they've kind of fucking had to, haven't they?
Yeah.
It's like, Iron Man was your grounded Marvel movie with let's just keep it very. And then they realized when they started expanding out, well, we have a god now, so we kind of need a expand out.
Yeah, to bounce the god stuff, the humans need to have like a high level of tech. Otherwise, it doesn't really make sense.
Yeah.
Right. And Ragnarok's a very sci-fi thing. Very spaceships and space arenas and aliens and stuff like that.
I mean, that's almost your sci-fi comedy there as well.
Yeah, that's true. That it's Ragnarok. It kind of hits that sci-fi comedy quite neatly.
Yeah,
I'd say.
Speaking of comedy,
segue.
The third, the third corner in the triangle that is this episode.
Yes, comedy.
I tried very hard to make that an analogy.
This is good to leave to last. This is quite hard.
Oh, really? I've already got mine pumped and ready to go.
Well, tell me about what you look for in comedy, then.
God, see, here's the funny thing, right, is that for the longest time, I was brought up very Americanized. So you can have a look at my shelf, and you can see things like Scrubs and Friends, and I know your hatred for Friends, it's fine.
Terrible show.
And that was very much, I was brought up on the multicam sitcom and the Americanized Whose Line Is It Anyway? And that was very much where my sensibilities lay. Because that stemmed from everything. My brothers would watch NBA, so that was very much everything from sport to wrestling to our intake of movies and pop culture was very much Americanized. So because of that, I did not even give British comedy a chance. I just figured, it's not funny, it's very, it's just very...
It's a bit dry,
we say witty things, and that's apparently funny. And I was like, no, that's not funny at all. Then I watched Hot Fuzz.
Hot Fuzz, yeah, great introduction to British style comedy, I would say, yeah.
And just great introduction to what is good comedy in general. I have watched that film probably about 10 times now, and it does not get old to me.
I would say that American comedy is more about witty quips.
Oh, yes.
Than British comedy. British comedy has a little bit of that, but I'd say its strengths come from other places, generally, which is cringe and embarrassment. That voyeurism of something that's just a bit, difficult to watch.
I mean, you look no further than The Office, which America has obviously now tried to adapt with, Parks and Rec.
And their version of The Office, which is very good,
Yes.
and is well loved. But it's because they borrowed that element of it, that difficult to watch embarrassment element of it. That's what makes it so strong, and that's what's so British about it. And the other element I would say that's really important to British comedy is a not so much the dry or embarrassing bathos, right?
Yep.
Where something is the stakes seem very high, but then actually it's cut down to size in terms of context. I guess the thing from Hot Fuzz is the paperwork montage, right? Where you make it really intense and hyperbolic, but actually all it is like ticking boxes and stamping things. That's for me is one of the strengths of contrast in British comedy is everything seems so heightened, but actually it's really naff.
It's a massive generalization, but when you look at American comedy versus English comedy, there's this desire to explain the joke and explain that it's funny in American comedy.
Sometimes, yeah.
But this is funny because of this reason, where kind of with British humor, they just present you with the situation, present you with the characters, and it just happens to be fucking hilarious.
Yeah.
As a result of that, they're playing it dead serious. It's what Paul Salt from One Good Thing, who we've guested on a couple of times, name drop that. Go see One Good Thing. By see, I mean listen to it.
Yes,
use
that's
your
right.
ears, because it's a podcast. And he said, the why Leslie Nielsen is so hilarious. He's American, but you'll get my point in a second.
Yeah. I love those kind of movies. Yeah.
He's not funny. He's not funny.
Yeah, he plays it straight. Yeah.
Plays it straight. And it's actually something, if you want to kind of delve into my psyche a bit, is the way I've realized I need to kind of address these podcasts, is that I'm generally fairly just like this. I'm very dry. And very just kind of lowbrow, and that's kind of me. And yet, especially in the early episodes, if you go back, I very much felt a need to just ramp up the fucking energy really high and force it. And I go back and I'm like, that's not fucking funny. What are you doing?
Sean, if TV's taught me anything, you just have to be yourself.
Just be me.
And if that doesn't
no one
work,
wants that. Then don't be on a podcast.
Yeah, you basically shit out of luck. So growing up, I guess the things that I loved watching, it's funny that you talk about Leslie Nielsen. The things I loved growing up when I was sort of a teenager and I was finding my kind of comedy stylings was things like Airplane, Naked Gun, Top Secret is one of my all-time favorite films. It is so silly. Those slapstick comedies are not. They don't get made anymore. Instead, you have these kind of like you get things like The Hangover and stuff like that, which does not appeal to my sense of humor at all. I really wish slapstick comedy would come back, but I'm not sure it would have the audience. I couldn't tell you. But Top Secret, amazing film. So stupid. Go watch it. Just tons of silly visual puns and absurdity. So something I mentioned on Shut Up and Take My Podcast a couple of times is I love absurd comedy, where it subverts your expectations and just throws them out the window. As I matured a bit, British comedies still kind of figured really heavily in my sense of humour. So Black Books is probably my favourite British comedy ever. And internationally acclaimed. People all over the world love Black Books. Do you know Black Books?
Yeah, I know.
Of course.
Oh, of course I do. However, the reason I have to go back and watch Black Books now is that I, through my ex, actually, I got introduced to IT Crowd.
Great show. Yeah.
That's when I realized, holy shit, what have I been missing out on? The fact that I've never even given these shows a chance. And through that is... and now especially watching The American Office, I want to go back and watch The British Office, and I want to there's such a myriad of shows and content that I've just neglected simply because, it's British.
Yeah. How do these comedies relate to the sense of humour in Futurama?
Oh, the British style? That's very...
I think there's elements of the absurd in there. Futurama allows itself to get pretty weird and silly, and those moments I really, really love. But it doesn't really have cringe or embarrassment comedy.
No, that's where I bring back to why I love Archer so much.
Yeah,
Archer's goddamn cringy. It's hard to watch sometimes. It's just,
sometimes, and it has elements of gross out as well.
Yes,
like real gross out, horrible stuff. Especially with Pam.
Futurama, it's tragic.
What?
Futurama's tragic and all, like the humor, like fucking Zoidberg.
I guess.
Tragic character, like watching the Will They Won't They of Brian Leela. It's frustratingly tragic to watch.
A lot of it's character driven, right?
Yes.
So Bender is awful. Everybody hates Zoidberg. Fry is an idiot.
But a hopeless romantic.
Yes. Leela is a badass.
But with a lot of baggage and issues.
With a huge amount of baggage. The professor is a genius, but absolutely insane.
Also, like, racist in some ways.
Kind of racist.
Hermes is a walking contradiction if you're looking at what people perceive
about Jamaicans, right? Yeah. So I guess a lot of the comedy comes from your love of the characters and the situation, and playing on that. But if we look at, say, Roswell That Ends Well, what makes that such a funny, great episode?
Well, I mean...
It's the kind of the absurd, imaginative situation, right, where he's trying to sleep with his grandma. What I would say is the real driver. And Zoidberg's character, right?
Yeah. I mean, we laughed out loud watching that episode which I wasn't expecting. I assumed that Roswell That Ends Well was just going to be one of those episodes where it's iconic and it's that sci-fi concept rather than the humor. But it's why I love my favorite TV show possibly of all time, and I keep trying to justify it by saying it's a guilty pleasure, but it's not. It's Chuck. Chuck is a series that came out about 10 years ago now, and it follows Chuck Bartowski, who is just an everyday man who works at what's called the Nerd Herd, which is basically a big W Kmart, Woolworths, Woolies type store. It's part of the IT tech crew. And through happenstance, he gets all the government secrets through the NRA and the CIA in his head.
Oh, okay.
And he has to have one member of the CIA and one member of the NRA now have to look after him.
The NRA, really?
Yeah, no, the NSA, sorry.
NSA, right. Okay.
I mean, it is Adam Baldwin, so he is probably a member of the
NRA as well. Yeah, the NSA makes more sense.
Yeah, and so they have to look after him because he has all the government secrets in his head and he can access them at any moment.
Okay.
It's really silly, it's really stupid, it's not
bit
terribly...
high concept.
And it's not terribly intelligent, but I fell in love with the characters.
Yeah,
And
sure.
I can look at that TV series and go, the last 2 seasons are shit for the most part. But those first 3 seasons, I love those characters enough that once the quality dips a bit, I'm invested in them too much.
Yes, yeah.
So I'm kind of engaged in their plight and their trials and their tribulations, and I still find it funny as a result. And more so, it's charming.
Yes.
Charming's a big part of the appeal for Futurama for me.
That's
as well.
definitely, the characters are really charming, and we have favourites, and we get invested in them, and we love seeing them put into different situations, right? And that's where a lot of the fun and the comedy comes from.
Yeah.
This week is Zoidberg, but now he's trying to make a movie. Or this week it's Fry and... or this week it's Kif and Amy, but they're having a baby. Yeah. It's that charm of well-written, well-defined characters and then putting them into silly situations and then filling it with lots of visual gags and stuff as well.
And it's why I'm kind of cautiously excited about going to see the newer seasons, because that was written much closer to our present time now.
Yeah.
Whereas the comedy writing styles are much more different, and there is this tendency to Family Guy it and to steep it in pop culture and steep it into references, that you can
flashbacks,
understand,
smash cuts,
and what do you call it? I'm blanking on a word that I shouldn't be blanking on. It's very... Right, you're going to help me here because I'm very much...
Well, you have to
blanking.
give me more clues.
It is the word that means that it is just for the sake of doing it. There's no rhyme or reason.
Arbitrary.
Arbitrary is not the word I want. It's like the Family Guy humor. Random. I blanked on the word random, by the way.
In quotation marks.
Yeah.
Random humor.
Random is what I blanked on.
Yeah, it's weird because there's a distinction, right, between absurd humor, which you could say is a bit random.
Yeah.
But there's a difference, right? When you're just like, I don't really understand why that happened, as opposed to something that happens and is silly, and you're like, that happened because it was the most surprising thing that could happen.
But also with Futurama in particular, they have random bits, but it still makes sense to either the character or the plot. It's not Peter Griffin is all of a sudden in a dance montage with...
Or a 15-minute fight with a chicken, right?
Yeah.
Like that for me is the quintessential I don't understand this sense of humor bit from Family Guy, right?
Which Simpson tried to replicate, and they have in the later seasons. And I have a fear that Futurama will do it, because I've never watched any of the new episodes.
Yes.
I'll be flying into that blind, and I have a fear that they're going to jump the shark in that sense. Whereas you don't have a lot of the writers returning. You've got their final episodes, and I believe, were in 2013. That's not too far away from
and people's those shows like Family Guy and American Dad were popular, so maybe they started to have an influence on the way the show was written. I can't remember those episodes so well, so
I'm a bit scared.
So hopefully it keeps its own style and resists those. I guess maybe it's worth addressing because we just touched on it. Animated comedies that we don't like. I think we both have a kind of a shared dislike for Family Guy and I kind of okay with American Dad.
Well,
neither of them
look
are
on my shelf. A to Z.
American Dad up there,
because I said American Dad with Family Guy with a plot.
That's right. I mean, there are still things that annoy me about that show too, but I find it much more watchable. Neither show is one I would go out of my way to watch, though.
What about Cleveland Show?
No, never really tried it. No. I just was not hungry for more of that style.
No.
Really. And, and things like Quagmire I find really gross.
Yeah.
I just don't think it's funny to be like, haha, this person's a gross pervert. I'm like, that's just gross. It's not funny.
Well, look at the difference between Quagmire and Zap Brannigan.
Yeah, that's right. And even worse than Quagmire is the old man who likes to molest boys.
Oh, this guy.
Yeah, I just think that's funny.
Yeah.
Haha, it's funny. He molests boys. It's like, no, that's really tragic and not very nice, actually.
Which is really interesting, because Seth MacFarlane is a very multi-talented individual, and B, very intelligent man too.
Sure.
Yet it's funny where his bread and butter has come from, and the fact that he hasn't really pushed Family Guy. I guess that's what American Dad was, and what
is to push to make it a bit more high concept
and Ted and
I haven't seen. Yeah, I'm not biggest fan of Seth MacFarlane, to be honest.
the last thing I'll say is, if I say to you, sci-fi comedy film,
Sci-fi comedy or Galaxy Quest.
that's where I go to exactly.
Obviously, that's probably the sci-fi comedy film.
I don't
Speaking
know-
of Seth MacFarlane, actually, I've heard that Orwell's really good.
Orwell. Yeah, I've heard this too.
Yeah,
And
I haven't watched it yet.
It looks fun.
Yeah, I haven't watched it, but it's really good.
This is the thing, because Seth MacFarlane in particular has he adores and draws a lot of inspiration from Star Trek.
Yeah.
He's very much of that era. I mean, you have to remember as well that Seth MacFarlane is one of the big reasons why the new version of Cosmos got on the air.
Okay,
He's an
yeah.
executive producer. He funded it quite heavily.
I think there's maybe... it's a bit hard for us to talk about having neither of us seen it. But I think... And this is maybe where Futurama gets some of its strength as well, is that when you have a genre that you're inside of to base your comedy around, you have a stronger foundation, right? You have a better structure. So that's one of the things we talk about all the time in Futurama, is like one of the things that can really boost an episode and how its quality is that it has a great sci-fi framework to hang off. And then maybe the reason Orwell's really good and well received is that it's not just that it's an American family sitcom
No, it's got
thing, which is not a great... It's a pretty boring, played-out frame.
Whereas, funny that it has a structure that kind of, gives it a bit more grounding, gives it a foundation to work through.
Yeah, whereas it's a family who lives in America means there's not many places you can build off that, so you have to just get
That hasn't already
weird.
been done.
That's right. So you just have to get weird to grow from it, whereas there are a million sci-fi concepts and Star Trek-esque concepts that you can go, right, well, we have the comedy show is a crew in a spaceship. That's the setup for Imaginauts, right? We use the same premise because it's great and you can do lots of things with it.
Also, just very quickly, as if people haven't seen it, because I don't know how much of a cult status or whether it is quite well known, Galaxy Quest. Galaxy Quest is very much a parody of Star Trek. Features Tim Allen, Sigourney Weaver, Sam Rockwell again, Alan Rickman, and Tony Shalhoub. I always get his last name wrong. If you don't know him, he was the main actor in the TV show Monk.
Oh, right, cool. Yeah. He's got that really plastic face with bug eyes. So the Galaxy Quest is about...
it's a meta look at...
Yeah, it's the star of a very Star Trek adjacent TV show in this world. And they get picked up by aliens and put in a replica of the ship from the TV show.
Because
the
it's
aliens,
a documentary, clearly.
Yeah, the aliens think it's a documentary and they're real Starship pilots, but they're not. And they have to learn to be the thing that they've always played,
and
despite the fact being washed up. It's great. It's a great concept.
I mean, it's not hard to, draw a conclusion that maybe Tim Allen is meant to be William Shatner, potentially, maybe.
Yeah, there are quite a few straight lines between Star Trek and Galaxy Quest.
Love that William Shatner in an interview essentially said, "I'm not like that at all. That's not me. How dare you?
How dare you? Yes, you are."
Oh, yeah, he had such a hatred for the kind of the nerd fandom in like Comic-Cons and such for the longest time.
That's weird.
I think he's embraced it a little bit more. Like, dude's kind of chilled out a bit at 85 or whatever.
Dude's written his own sci-fi novels.
Yeah, he had a massive hand in the Star Trek extended canon.
I've got one of his books. I've never read it.
Oh.
I got it in an op shop. It's called Tech War. Tech spelled T-E-K.
Oh, that's edgy.
In fact, it's called William Shatner's Tech War.
William Shatner's Tech War.
It's got that name slapped in front of it.
Got to get that name value onto it.
Like Tom Clancy's or whatever. What about animated sci-fi?
Animated sci-fi?
Akira?
Never watched.
You have to watch Akira.
I will watch Akira.
Akira's Ghost in the Shell.
Also never watched.
Oh, this is becoming an education for Sean, is what this episode is turning into. Both amazing anime films.
I'm told I should watch Cowboy Bebop.
Cowboy Bebop as well, great. With comedy elements as well.
Yeah.
That's got real good laughs, that show. It comes from the strength of the characters as well. They're really great characters. I'd say Cowboy Bebop's really is a fantastic sci-fi. what did we say? Animated sci-fi comedy.
What about let's watch Buzz Lightyear Starship Command? Buzz Lightyear Starlight Command.
I've never heard of that before.
It's the animated spin-off from Toy Story.
I'd figured that part out.
Yeah.
I did not know that it existed until you opened your mouth.
We can watch it. I think it doesn't.
We can watch it. We're not going to.
Damn.
Sure. We are not. We can watch Akira, but we cannot watch that. Sorry. What's the other configuration quickly that we haven't done?
Comedy animation, which we kind of touched on.
So comedy sci-fi we just did.
Animated comedy.
Animated sci-fi and then animated comedy, which I guess we've already covered.
Yeah, we've
already covered.
Yeah,
all right.
Done everything we can.
That's our taste. That's our take on those things.
There you go.
Nothing funnier than analysing comedy, folks.
Yeah.
Give it a try.
You know what? Like, if you want to give it a shot, like, take any of the jokes or potentially funny things we've said and break it down.
Explain to us why we're not funny.
Yes. Or you know what? That's pretty apt, actually.
I'm sorry it's just the two of us. I guess we are the kind of the most common cast of Shut Up and Take My Podcast. So hopefully if you gave a damn, that gives you a bit of insight about how Sean and I approach, about our tastes and why we approach Futurama in the way that we do, and has given us some good things to watch next, I guess. I think our next movie night, I think, is sorted.
It's also been good for us to... Well, can we just talk to each other? Let's see if we can do this. We did it.
We did, yeah.
We did.
Yeah. We haven't actually ever...
person. We've never done a two-person podcast.
No, we now have Futurama. It's just the two of us. Or any podcast, just the two of us. So maybe that will happen.
Maybe, yeah.
Maybe we'll go away and watch Akira and we'll come back.
Happy birthday, Ellen. You're kicked off. No, please don't come back. Yes, happy belated birthday to Ellen, which will be a few days past from when this comes out.
And happy birthday.
About a week past, actually, but yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, happy birthday to you, Jerome, as well, wherever you are.
Yep.
I'm sure it's your birthday today.
Jerome,
we love you.
Who is Jerome?
I don't know.
Thank you. And Josh will also be back in the near future too.
Is the next episode Jurassic Park as well?
The next episode will be Bender should not be allowed on television.
Oh, so we've just had Jurassic Park in this timeline?
No. So the order goes: Taste of Freedom was last week, and next week will be Bender should not be allowed on television, and the week after that is Jurassic Park.
So stick around for that. Come back for Jurassic Park. Apparently, it's quite a popular episode. It's quite famous.
I don't know if you realise, but we've recorded this in a weird spot, so we're not even sure.
Yeah, we don't know
where it is. So hopefully I've done that format right.
Yeah, a little look into the behind the scenes of how podcasting works.
Professionalism.
We don't actually record it and then just hit upload the same day and it appears.
We've recorded every episode of Futurama.
Oh, it's all done.
It's all completely done. Including the latest season, which I said I've never seen before.
And including future episodes that haven't been made yet.
Yes. Also, until that time, if you'd like to get in contact with us, in fact, please do get in contact with us. Also, if not, to talk about, maybe give us some idea of another side mission that you might want to hear us do.
Yeah, if you want to know more about us and our take on the show.
Or anything, really.
Yeah.
We've done now one on Radiorama, one on Getting to Know Us, and one on our sensibilities.
Yep.
So, if you have another idea, please do at babybeardmedia@gmail.com.
Just get in touch with us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. We check all those things, and we'd love to hear from you. That'd be great. And if you like any of our stuff, it really, really helps us if you leave a rating, or even better, leave a couple of words in review. Say, good job, guys, or whatever.
Or both.
Or both. Both is even better. It is unbelievably helpful to us if you take 5 seconds and do that. So please do.
It's actually the number one way you can really assist us in skyrocketing up the iTunes charts. If you do it on iTunes, if possible, not through your app, through the actual iTunes on your computer.
However you want to do it.
Apparently, that's how the algorithm... I don't know. I just get told these things.
Yeah. But if you want other people to listen to us, if you think other people should listen to us, that's the way to get us in front of people's ear holes.
And also, very quickly, we guested recently on One Good Thing.
Yes. OGTpod.podbean.
Yeah, they're on Podbean, I believe, or they were... Oh, God,
that's where I listen to them, on Podbean. So otherwise, go look them up.
Otherwise, Twitter, Facebook, iTunes.
Yeah, OGT Pod. They are a great... They look at movies that the world has given up on and try and find one good thing about them. Great show. We're on it occasionally. You should check it out.
Yeah, we've done 3 times. We did Surf Ninjas, we did Wild Wild West, and now we did Tom Cruise's The Mummy.
The Mummy 2017.
We put ourselves through that. So until that time, I have been Sean,
I've been Phil.
and this was Side Mission.